parts of me that really almost can't accept the fact that the human species is a natural entity on this planet. And I see that because I'm on the fence like a lot of people. You run into a lot of problems when you apply Darwin's theories. Now, Darwin has great writings, especially on microorganisms. And his theory works perfectly with the animal kingdom, with the exception of humans. And it's really interesting because it wasn't until people started to apply his theory to humans that people no longer believed his theory. And I think what has happened is, first of all, Darwin studied birds and insects and plants. And when you look at his studies, his drawings, the theory of evolution makes perfect sense. You can see it. But the minute you take his theory and then you say, okay, well now I can explain where humans came from, all of a sudden things don't really make a whole lot of sense. And when you really think about the human species, we really are aliens on this planet. We really don't jive with things. We just don't seem to fit. And this happens in many ways. So I was in a conversation with someone yesterday. We were talking about the human species and how strange we are, and how when you look at us physically, it doesn't make any sense, the diet that we eat today. You know, why would you have sensitive fingertips when you're a hunter? You know, you don't want to feel at the ends of your fingers. You want to have claws so you can, you know, have that amount of numbness so you can grab that prey and rip into it. Why would you want sensitive fingers with thin nails? It doesn't make any sense. That's for grabbing fruit, not grabbing another animal or another being. You know, we don't have the strongest grip. We certainly don't have a very strong bite. It's a very small bite. Take a bite out of a sandwich and look at the size of it, and then offer the sandwich to your dog and see the bite that he takes. He'll probably take the whole thing in one swipe. So we're really not that much of a contender when it comes to our competition, such as dogs. And it makes sense that we have used dogs through the centuries, because for them it makes perfect sense. I mean, I know my dog looks at me and says, you know, let a pro do it, because I'm sure it's very sad to him watching me eat. Granted, I don't eat meat anymore, but at the same time, you know, if I wouldn't want to take any of his little rawhide bones. I have no desire to. Even if I did, I mean, what would I do with it? I'd suck on it? I mean, I really couldn't do any damage to it at all. A raw piece of steak, I would be sick if I ate it raw. He has no problem. And even when it is cooked, if I try to take a bite out of it and rip it off, I mean, it's really tough. And you may get the first couple of bites, but after a while, you kind of are like, my jaw hurts. I'm kind of tired of ripping at this damn tough piece of meat. And the dog would just have no problem. If you look at his bites, and I have, it looks like a pair of scissors cut right through it. You look at his molars, and every one of them is pointed. Mine are flat. I mean, it's like trying to take a monkey wrench and rip off pieces of meat is pretty much what my jaw is trying to do. It's really hard to do, and he's doing it, you know, with clippers. So easy and effortless. So there's a lot of things that don't really make sense with the human species, and then you think, well, you know, it kind of makes sense that we would be best on plant-based diet, because look at our fellow primates. So many of them are plant-based, especially those that are closest to us. Now, lemurs are very far from us as far as the family tree goes. They really don't share a whole lot, even though you can still call them some people would consider them a primate. They're really not. They have their own class. But even the primates that are very close to us, they may share that plant-based diet, but I still get very confused by the anatomy. They're just so much stronger than we are. I mean, it's amazing. A chimpanzee is about half of the size of a human, you know, if you stand us next to each other, but 4 times the strength. I It's beyond me that we could have possibly evolved on this planet with everything else, because we just don't fit. I mean, even rabbits are faster than we are, and we're supposed to catch them. Mind you, humanity survived before the invention of the firearm. So I'm not talking to you saying that your bullet can't beat the rabbit. That's a very modern invention. You look at early humans, the caveman. I mean, that's a serious odd that you're up against. Everything is faster than you. Just about everything is stronger than you. You're naked. I mean, we don't have fur. We just, we have a weak bite. We have fingernails. We're not very strong in comparison to other animals. And then you look at the things that are predators to us. Big cats, bears. I mean, even wild dogs in a pack. Hyenas. I mean, there's just so many things that would just wipe us out. And from the data we have, we were not numerous at all. In fact, we were very close to extinction ourselves based on what we know today. And so it's a very odd thing when you look at that and you say, well, there weren't that many of us. We had almost no business being on this planet to begin with. We're just so ill-equipped. And then the only thing we have is high intelligence, which I will say high intelligence really isn't that great when you put it in that environment. If you want to test it, go take a hike in the woods and try to fend for yourself. Your high intelligence does you very little. It really doesn't. You need street smarts. And animals get that from each other. Some of it is instinctive, but most of it is taught to them by their parents. And they really don't need high intelligence. They have no need for algebra. They have no need for calculus or quantum physics or anything like that. And they would outsurvive you in that situation. So it's a very strange thing. And I really put a lot of thought into it. I don't have an answer as of yet. And the question came up. The other individual asked me honestly. She said, well, then do you believe in aliens? And I hesitated because the word alien is a loaded word. And she saw me hesitate and she said, is that too soon? And I said, no, you're on the right track. I just don't want you to think that I'm referring to the big-eyed, big-head, the grays. When you say the word alien, it means a lot of things. And I told her, I said, what are angels? Angels are things not from this planet. They come from the outside. They are the others. In many pagan religions, they're called the others. They come from the outer realm, from beyond the veil, that sort of thing. It's the same thing. The Bible gives them different names. Angels and devils and pagan religions give them their own names, and you have demons and you have spirits, you have good and bad, positive, negative. It doesn't matter which side, it's pretty much the same thing. So if you're religious, yes, you believe in aliens. You just may not picture them the way that modern society has what is considered an alien, quote unquote, an alien, a gray. So in a way, I want to say that we are aliens because we just don't fit the model. Everything else fits with Darwin's theory except us. We're the only ones that just don't fit. And granted, he was not trying to answer human origins. He was studying the animals. And has great papers on earthworms that are fantastic, especially if you're a gardener. And he was very compassionate, an animal rights person. So I really do respect him in many ways. But the minute, someone else goes in and goes, oh, that's how we explain humans. No, it really doesn't quite work. And we get close to it. We get close, but close isn't it. We can get close to a lot of things, and any good scientist knows close is just not close enough. You have to nail it. So that's why it's still, that part is still theoretical. For every other species on this planet, I fully believe it. I fully fall into it because we can see it. You can follow any organism for 3 generations and see evolution in action. And that is the way the genes work, and cell splitting, reproduction, that's evolution. But when you try to explain human origins, you start to run into issues of time constraint. Evolutionary changes take a very, very long time for big changes to happen. It's like as if we just got dropped off here. We really haven't changed that much. As a species, as an animal, we look very close to the way we do today. I mean, we're really not. We just really haven't changed. And the teeth get me too. Even other apes have these big teeth, these big canines, these huge jaws. And then you look at a humanoid and you just like, it's so pathetic. Where does that even come? How do you evolve? How are you the winner? How are you the most fit? Now, survival of the fittest doesn't mean fit as in, girth. It doesn't mean strength. It means the most fit for the environment. Snails, even though they're not very strong, they are the most fit because for their environment, they're perfect for it, and that's how they've survived. You look at humans and you're like, how do we fit? How did we fit? I mean, today we have so much power, it's easy to forget we came from very humble beginnings. You look at that hair sample from that caveman. The hair sample, his stomach contents said he ate meat. His hair sample said it was extremely rare. He was a vegan for the most part. He was foraging. And then on a rare occasion would eat meat. And when you look at the contents of his stomach, it wasn't that much. So it really leads a lot of scientists to believe he was more of a scavenger, which is what opossums are, and they're omnivores. A lot of animals that fall into the same class are scavengers. So that's why there isn't that much meat in the system, because it's what was left over from something like a dog or a cat, which is far better equipped to take down the animal. So the other issue came up, and I said, but even as scavengers, we're not that good at it because we would be sick. We have to cook the food so we can ingest it. And that's another very strange adaptation where you say no other animal feels the need to do that. No other animal has to process its food in order to eat it. Even scavengers, they have the enzymes. They can eat it without getting sick. We will be ill. And so what gave us the notion that in order to eat it, we had to put it into a flame? It's very odd. It's very strange. It really doesn't fit the natural model. And that's what I'm trying to explain. If you really dig deep and you really give it thought, we have no business being here, and yet we are. And when you look at bacteria, E. coli, for example, thrives in outer space. They did this test at NASA. Thrives. I mean, it just flourishes. But when it's on Earth, it's debilitated. If you ever want to know someone's natural environment, natural meaning that's where you thrive, that's where you do best. Humans do very well in warm weather with plenty of water and food. There's a perfect ecosystem for that animal or that bacteria or whatever it is. So wherever you thrive, that is what's natural for you. So the fact that bacteria thrive in outer space would lead you to believe that that's where they came from. They didn't come from the Earth, they came from other places in space. And when the comet landed, that's how it was planted on the Earth. And that's how they were able to explain sudden outbreaks of disease. They don't come from nowhere. The bubonic plague, I mean, they're tracing it back to rats, but where did the rats get it? Humans have always lived among rats. They've always lived among fleas. Why is it that all of a sudden we almost get wiped completely off the planet? And what they're saying is that there was looking at, geologists looking at the area, the rock face, the new theory is that a comet or landed in that area, and it was planted with I believe it was a bacteria, or maybe it was a virus. I can't remember which it was, but it was planted on the earth, and that's how it spread like that. Because when you think about it, in your natural environment, you are already equipped with defenses. The only reason why Europeans got native peoples sick is because native peoples, it was not native to them. It was new. They were newly exposed to it. And the same thing would have happened in reverse. So it's not that one race is stronger than the other. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with your exposure. What are you used to? Anyone from the U.S. going to Africa, you're just going to catch all kinds of crap because we're not used to it. It's not native to us. That's the only way you can explain sudden outbreaks without having planes back then, without having that kind of exchange. It's the only way you can explain it. So really start to think about origins and broaden your horizon to outside of the earth. Because once you start to think that way, things start to make a bit more sense. Again, I don't have the answer for it. I'm still thinking about it, but it is an interesting thought.